Ever thought about building a website, but then you hit a wall with two words that sound kind of the same: domain and hosting? Trust me, you are not alone. They're the two absolute must-haves for any website, but they do completely different jobs. So let's break it all down, make it super simple, and get you ready to build.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk domains, your online address. Then, hosting, your online land. We'll compare them side by side, see how they connect, and then I'll give you some essential pro tips and answer the most common questions. Sound good? Let's jump in.
All right, first things first. Let's talk about your website's address on the internet. This is your domain name, and really, it's where your whole online journey begins.
So what exactly is a domain name? Well, it's just the address people punch into their browser to find your website. The easiest way to think about it is this. If your website is a house, the domain is the street address. Simple as that. It's how people find you.
Okay, but why do we even need them? Here's the deal. Computers don't use nice, friendly names. They talk to each other using long strings of numbers called IP addresses. You know, something like 142.251.46.110. Can you imagine telling your friend to check out your website at that number? No way. A domain like google.com is just a simple, easy-to-remember nickname for that complicated number.
And you know, it's not just about .com anymore. You've got your classics, the top-level domains, or TLDs, like .com, .net, and .org. Then you've got country codes, like .uk for the UK or .ca for Canada, which are perfect if you're targeting a local audience. And now there's this whole world of new-age TLDs like .ai, .tech, or .store. These are cool because they can tell people what your site is about before they even get there. So, let's talk money. How much does one of these cost? Well, a standard .com is usually just 10 to 15 bucks a year. Pretty cheap, right? But keep an eye on a couple of things. First, specialty domains like .ai can get pretty pricey, mostly because they're in super high demand right now. And second, watch out for those first-year deals. A lot of places will give you a great price to start, but the renewal cost a year later might be higher.
Okay, so you've got your address. That's your domain. But you still need a piece of land to actually build your house on, right? Well, that's where our second key ingredient comes in: hosting. This is your plot of land on the internet.
Hosting is basically the service that rents you space on the internet. It's where all your website's files, all the text, the pictures, the videos, everything are stored and kept safe. When someone types in your domain, the hosting server is what actually sends your website to their screen. Without hosting, your website is basically homeless.
And just like real land, there are different types you can get. For almost everyone starting out, shared hosting is the way to go. It's super affordable because you're sharing server space with other websites. As your site gets bigger, you might upgrade to cloud hosting. And then you have dedicated hosting. That's for the really big websites that need an entire server all to themselves. All right, let's put these two head-to-head. Address versus land, domain versus hosting. This is where it all clicks into place. This little table says it all, doesn't it? The domain is your address. Hosting is the storage space. The domain helps people find you. The hosting actually makes your site work. You usually pay for your domain once a year, while hosting is often a monthly thing. So, that brings us to the million-dollar question. Do you really need both? And the answer is a huge, absolute yes. A domain without hosting is just an address pointing to an empty lot. And hosting without a domain? That's a beautiful house with no address, so nobody can ever find it. You need both to have a working website, period. So how do these two separate things actually communicate behind the scenes to make a website appear? It's actually a really cool, super fast process. Let's walk through it.
It's like a little digital dance that happens in a split second. Step 1, someone types your domain into their browser. Step 2, the domain system instantly finds where your website's files are stored on your hosting server and points the request over there. And step 3, your hosting server gets the request, grabs all your website files, and sends them right back to the visitor's browser. And poof, your website shows up.
Okay, you've got the theory down. Now let's dive into some practical, essential tips that'll help you get started on the right foot.
One of the first decisions you'll make is whether to buy your domain and hosting from the same company or from two different ones. My advice, for beginners, just buy them together. It is so much easier. You get one dashboard, one bill, and usually they're already connected for you. Buying them separately gives you more control, but for the convenience, together is the way to go when you're starting out.
Now listen up, because this one is super important. When you register a domain, your personal info, your name, your address, your email, goes into a public database called Whois. Yeah, public. Domain privacy is a service that swaps out your info with the company's info, hiding you from spammers and keeping your identity private. It's often free or just a few bucks a year. I highly, highly recommend it.
You might also hear people talk about subdomains. All these are just prefixes you add to your main domain to organize your site. Think of it like adding different rooms to your house. If your website is example.com, you could have a blog.example.com or a shop.example.com. And the best part? Once you own the main domain, creating these is totally free.
All right, to finish up, let's do a quick fire round and answer some of the most common questions people have about all this stuff.
Yes, 1,000 times yes. You are never, ever locked into a single hosting company. If you find one that's faster or cheaper or has better support, you can always pack up your website files and move them to a new host. Your domain address stays the same. This is a big one that trips people up. You don't actually own your domain. You rent it, usually on a yearly basis. You have to renew it. If you forget to pay that renewal fee, it eventually expires and someone else can snap it up. So always set a reminder for that renewal date. So let's put it all together and do the math. How much does it really cost to get a blog online? Well, you could grab a domain for about 12 bucks a year, get some basic shared hosting for around $3 a month, so that's $36 for the year, connect them, do a one-click